After a long day of shooting people who disagree with you politically, quench your thirst with a refreshing beverage from one of our vending machines.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. In my ongoing series here about fixed blade knives, we talked about different kinds of knife steels. We talked about different sizes of knife. I like to talk about handle materials. Well, probably the most classic handle material would be wood. Here's a Mora knife with a wooden handle. And wood feels good. You can carve on it, cut on it to make it fit your hand better. And it's relatively warm in the winter. When you grab a hold of this, it doesn't conduct heat away from your hand. My biggest problem with these wooden handles, at least, is indexing, because if you grab this in the dark, because it's this sort of oval wooden handle, you can't tell which way the edge is facing. You have to be able to look, or I guess reach out and feel the edge with your fingers, which is not so good. Might cut yourself. Here's a very similar Mora, and if I grab this one backwards, I'm going to know it immediately, because I can feel through the contours of this handle, can feel which way it's meant to be grasped. So that is one thing I dislike about a wooden handle. Wood also tends to get slippery if it's wet or greasy or bloody, and if you're using that to dress game or to cook, it's so easy. Your hands are going to be wet or bloody or greasy or all three. So that's not so great. Another classic choice is a stacked leather handle. Take a bunch of leather washers and stack them over the tang of the knife and compress them, and then they turn them on a lathe or whatever, put some grooves on them, and you get a good grip. It looks good, it feels good, it smells like leather, it smells nice, it's classic. Knives have been done that way a long time. I kind of got nothing bad to say about a stacked leather handle. Stacked leather is great. Again though, you might find that if you grab this knife in the dark, you can't tell which way around its edge is pointed. Can't tell on which side the edge is. You can't index the knife with that handle. So that is something worth thinking about. But stacked leather handles are a classic choice, and they can be beautiful, they can be polished up, so they look good, and they can be very durable. They can be really terrific. This Mora has this plastic handle with like a rubberized coating. This cold steel has like a metal handle, but with a rubberized coating. That rubber is not terribly durable. It feels good, it's grippy. It gives you a pretty good grip most of the time in most conditions, but it can scratch, peel off, get abraded off, whatever. It's not a super durable material. Here's a cold steel that again has a rubberized handle. It offers a great grip. It's not the most durable. It works, it's fine, but it's not the very most durable. This Essie has Micarta handle scales. These are canvas Micarta. If you're not familiar with Micarta, it's a laminated material. Basically, you lay down, it's glue and some kind of plant fiber. You lay down a layer of plant fiber, in this case it's cotton canvas. Lay down a layer of canvas and smear it with some kind of glue or epoxy. Another layer of canvas, more glue or epoxy. Just layer after layer, build it up, and then compress it all. And you let it cure out. So when you're done, you've got a block of Micarta material. I hear it pronounced Micarta or Micarta. I usually pronounce it Micarta. But you've got a block of Micarta, and that stuff you can treat a lot like wood. You can saw it, you can drill into it, you can turn it on a lathe, you can cut it and machine it like a piece of wood, cut it with a router and cut it to any shape you want, which is awfully nice. And it's got a texture that's kind of soft. It feels good under the hand, but it's got enough grip, enough friction from the canvas that it offers you a secure purchase. And of course you can cut finger grooves in it or whatever you need. You can bolt those pieces, those slabs onto a tang, which is what Essie did with this. This is canvas Micarta. It can be made with linen, it can be made with paper, some kind of plant fiber material. Linen and paper Micarta can be really pretty. You can polish them up. This canvas Micarta, not so much. It just has that burlap sort of surface to it. When they're dry, they all offer a pretty good purchase. Paper and linen Micarta sort of give the impression that when they get wet or greasy, they'd be really slick. Supposedly, and I've never used one under adverse conditions. I've used canvas Micarta and had really good luck. But linen and paper Micarta, I've not used under really harsh conditions. Supposedly, even when wet, it gives you a good purchase. I don't see how it could, but supposedly, when this gets wet, because it's full of glue, it's impregnated with glue, that glue gets a little bit tacky. And I can attest that when these handles get wet, yeah, they feel a little bit tacky and they have a little bit sticky, and they give me a good purchase. And supposedly you get the same with linen and paper micarta. I don't know, I haven't tried that, but some people swear it, so I guess there must be some truth to it. Linen and paper micarta don't seem as inclined to absorb moisture and absorb. This is almost like a sponge, this canvas micarta, and this will absorb oil, it will absorb blood, it will absorb all kinds of things, and these can get stained. The good news is this is a very tough material. You can just unscrew this, take these off. I've literally thrown them in the dishwasher with a load of dishes, and when they come out, they look brand new. Just let them dry out and then put them back on the knife. So that's one advantage of micarta, easy to care for. Even if it gets stained, you can wash it very easily and get the stains out. I guess these leather handles, I've never had one get stained, but I mean, they would absorb oil and things like that. So that gives micarta an advantage. G10 is a similar material. I don't have a G10 handle here, but G10 is a material that's made with layers of glass reinforced plastic, like glass reinforced nylon, fiberglass, Zytel or something like that, fiberglass reinforced nylon. You layer them with glue and you compress it all together, and when you're done, you've got a block that's incredibly tough. You can machine it, you can machine rough surfaces into it. Gives a lot of purchase. It can be really abrasive, but it can give an even more aggressive texture than the micarta. You can have it in lots of different colors. That's one advantage of micarta. You can dye it any color you want. You can dye that G10 any color you want, any color that plastic could be. You can have it in different alternating layers of different colors. Very tough stuff. Sometimes people just make knives out of it, punch daggers or whatever. You can use to punch through plywood. I don't know why you'd want to, but you could. Make letter openers and things like that out of them. G10 is, it's not a natural material like the plant fiber, so it probably resists rot a little bit better and resists absorbing stains a little bit. It probably resists most things better, but it doesn't feel as nice to me as micarta, and I find micarta plenty tough. So I'm happy with G10 or micarta, but I prefer micarta. You'll see aluminum or stainless steel or brass handle scales. Aluminum's especially popular. It's lightweight. You can anodize it any color. You can cut different patterns into it that give you a good grip, a good purchase. I'm not crazy about aluminum because it's cold in the winter. It conducts heat really well. So when you grab that with your bare hands in the winter, it's going to be ice cold. Whereas the leather or the wood or the rubber or the micarta, any of those will tend to insulate your hand better. And by the same token, in the summer, if you left that knife laying out in the sun, it could get very hot, and when you pick it up, it could burn you. Whereas this, even though it's black, it's got a rubber handle, and that rubber does not communicate or does not conduct heat to my hand so readily as a piece of aluminum would. So I'm not crazy about aluminum. It is very tough. It's very useful. It's just not for me. If you're somebody who loves metal handle scales, that's fine on a folder or on a fixed blade. We can still be friends, but it's not my preference. Definitely not my preference. You'll also see handle scales that are just made out of fiberglass reinforced plastic, FRN or GRN, glass reinforced nylon, or some call it Grivery or Zytel. There are a bunch of different names for it. It's all plastic that's been reinforced with fiberglass, some amount of fiberglass. It's been around for a long time. Some people advertise it as unbreakable. It's not unbreakable, but it is very tough. It's cheap, it's light, it doesn't rot, it doesn't warp, it doesn't absorb any chemicals. And you can cut treads in it or different patterns that help give some traction. Those can be great. That can be a terrific budget way to do knife handles. It's not bad. I'm definitely not knocking it. And then you'll see knives that are made of different, knife handles that are made of a lot of different materials, a lot of them some kind of plastic or whatever, and a lot of them are for kitchen use. Don't overlook kitchen knives. If you need a good bushcraft knife, and especially if you're on a budget, or if you need a camp knife or something like that, go to the kitchen section of a department store or online or whatever. A lot of those knives have non-slip grips. A lot of them are stainless, and for kitchen use, you don't want them to rust. A lot of them will take a really keen edge and hold it. A lot of them cut really well. Knives that are marketed for outdoor survival or hard use often have very thick blades. This is 3/16 of an inch. Sometimes they're thicker than that. Even at 1/8 of an inch would be 2/16, right? This Mora should be skinnier than that, should be about 1/10 of an inch. Most kitchen knives are more like this. like this Mora with very thin blades, and that helps them, it keeps weight down and it helps them cut better, cut more efficiently. Most of the time, you do not need a very thick blade on a knife. It does help if you're going to be batoning this or really abusing it. It helps with strength. It helps the knife to be strong and not to break. But unless you're really going to abuse the heck out of a knife, you can get really good results just with kitchen knives. Buy a butcher knife, buy a slicer, carving knife, a chef's knife, a breaking knife, whatever. And those work beautifully. Obviously, they work really well around camp for preparing food. That's what they were made to do. A lot of times they're rust resistant. They usually have non-slip handles. They're made out of fairly tough steel. They're made to be dropped on a concrete or tile floor in a kitchen and not break. So even if you drop it on a rock or something, they resist shock, usually resist shock very well. There's a lot to be said for kitchen knives. James Ayers in his book talks about, hey, maybe you should just get a kitchen knife. Good for doing woodworking. You can make feather sticks to build a fire. You probably don't want to baton them through wood to cut up wood, something like that, to build a fire. You could get away with it sometimes, maybe. They're really not made for that. I want to test that before you take it into the woods and start to rely on it. But yeah, you can get a big chef's knife, an 8-inch or a 10-inch or a 12-inch chef's knife, and it can make a wonderful bushcraft knife, and you can do all kinds of things with it in and around camp. Obviously for butchering game or for dressing game, I mean, they're made for cutting up meat and cutting up food. They're great for that. So there are lots of good chef's knives out there or kitchen knives that would serve you really well as an outdoor knife. One of the problems there is getting a sheath for one. You either have to make it or have one custom made. Generally, there's not a belt sheath or something like that. Some of the kitchen knives will come with like a plastic sheath, and if you're gonna toss that in your backpack anyway, maybe all you need. You don't need to lash it to your web gear or whatever. But yeah, so a kitchen knife can make a wonderful outdoor knife, survival or bushcraft knife. It's just not a really, really hard use knife. You're not gonna use it for prying open crates, I hope. You're probably not gonna do it twice at least. But yeah, so those are a lot of different knife handle materials that you might consider. I guess briefly we should talk about sheath material. Leather is classic, but leather will sometimes tend to hold moisture against a carbon steel blade or even a stainless blade and cause rust. Leather's easy to work with. You can sew it back together. You can make your own leather sheaths. You can poke holes in it, if you want to tie something to it or whatever. Leather's very versatile, but leather can rot. Leather has to be maintained. It has to be kept oiled. Something like a hard plastic, like a Kydex sheath, probably makes more sense for most of us most of the time. Here's a hard plastic sheath with this Essie. And then you got like Cordura nylon sheaths that are made out of this sort of thing. And most people find those kind of cheesy and they don't really like them very much. I generally find they work okay, but I prefer a hard plastic. That's my preference. Anyway, so we talked about knife handle material, sheath material. That'll give you some things to think about at least. Lots of different good kinds of sheath material and handle material. Pick the one you like. Keep your knife dry.